Okay, so let me attempt to turn the story on its head for a second, just for no other reason than I think this is really, really interesting, okay? Here's what I think is a perfectly reasonable retelling of the plot of Arcane. Piltover is a city where rich people force the poor to live in hell. The air is literally toxic, crime is rampant, the streets flooded with drugs, right? Drugs that literally make people go berserk, and there's all these crazed junkies everywhere, and nothing has been done about it. Topsiders don't even know the problem exists.
What is this place?
People are thrown in jail for no reason, without trial, and, as for law enforcement in general, well, Vi says it best.
You enforcers are all the same, just criminals in fancy uniforms.
And who rules this city? A council of utterly corrupt, apathetic fools and schemers, right? You have people in charge who are actually just idiots. You have people who can be bought so easily. It took Jayce one night to bribe everyone, everyone who mattered, apparently. You have a guy who's literally hundreds of years out of touch, a leader who's completely lost control of the council, a council that's supposed to look up to him. And then you have this utter villain who's only looking out for herself, who promotes dangerous science because it advances her career and because she has this inferiority complex because of her crazy warmonger family.
You are the richest person in Piltover.
Yet I remain the poorest Madada.
And then, last major part of the city, the scientists, and do I even have to say anything here? Jayce and Viktor, totally out of control, utterly reckless from the start. For all he's out of touch, Heimerdinger was totally right in this scene.
The Arcane is dangerous, Jayce. A force of nature. Science cannot control it.
And this scene...
I've seen this power in the wrong hands.
And this scene...
Putting that kind of power into everyone's hands is dangerous.
It wasn't safe. It did fall into the wrong hands. And for what? Well, the whole reason it was supported, the whole reason, the council ended up going along with Hextech was greed, basically. Am I wrong about this? It was economic gain for the upper class. It made everyone, Heimerdinger included, apparently just turn a blind eye to all the dangers the council members literally, just voiced unanswered, when the possibility was brought up. And there's no stopping the development of Hextech weapons. Even before Jinx, we had Jayce making weapons. So all that's our setting. Okay, our protagonist is a girl born into this world. Everything awful that's happened to her has been Topside's fault. They killed her parents. By some miracle, she finds a new family, and then what happens to them? Terrible accident caused by Piltover's own out-of-control technology, blows up a luxury apartment, and, you have enforcers wanting to make an arrest just to make the rich people feel safe, and in order to do that, they're ready to just tear apart a family. Just, even worse than that, tear apart the Undercity itself by arresting the one man who's keeping the peace, and then, once again, later on, episode 3, for all Powder blames herself, we have Jayce. It's Jayce without ever realizing it, actually, already failing to make the world a better place with Hextech. Powder kills most of her family, and the one person she cares about also abandons... I'm sorry, my mistake, is made to look like she abandons her. Why? Because she's arrested by the corrupt police again, without trial. So, what effect does this have on our protagonist? Trauma. Obviously, even worse, psychosis. She's haunted by the past. She hallucinates about them, the worst voices being the most prominent, the ones blaming her for what happened and condemning her for it. She has PTSD episodes reliving those moments, and she's never quite free from this futile hope that things can go back to how they were. And this, to depart from our hero for a second, is a major theme of the show. We have all the main characters faced with inevitable change. Jayce has to face that Hextech will become a tool of war. Viktor has to face his imminent death. Vi has to face that Powder has changed. Powder also has to face that Powder has changed. And, just in general, all the characters have to face that things cannot go back to how they were. And you see this on different scales and in different forms as well. Piltover, the city, its fate is to go to war with Zaun, but there's all these measures to deny this inevitability. You have Caitlyn, who has a dilemma which is not exactly change, but it's related. She has to face the reality that Piltover and Zaun are oil and water, that there will be conflict. Echo is interesting. Echo has accepted change, and he routinely acts in it, and his degree of acceptance is reflected by his degree of success. But he backslides. He's lulled into this moment of longing, where he's playing with his childhood friend again, and that split second of longing for the past, wishing it were a reality, that's where he fails. Silico's similar. Vander's betrayal became this defining moment of his life. He was reborn with this realization that you need to do whatever it takes to achieve your goal, fight for your life, fight for Zaun, even if it means betraying, backstabbing, manipulating, becoming a monster, whatever it takes for an independent Zaun, right? That was Silico's trajectory. But in the end, he can't do it. He can't do the one thing, betray the one person he needs to achieve his goals. In the end, he hasn't really changed. He isn't the man who'll do whatever it takes. And who, I ask you, is the one character in the entire series who accepts change and acts in it? Jinx. Before it can come back to bite her, before inevitable disappointment, she lets go of the past that's tortured her, and she embraces who she is now. It's the voices of her past trying to stop her from doing what's right, from fighting back against the people who have caused literally all the misery in her life, all the misery in her world in Zaun, but she does the right thing. She goes to war against all the injustice that's plagued her whole life. And this is speculative, but let's talk about this missile for a second, okay? Because there's some interesting possibilities here. Does the Hextech make it like a nuke? Will it destroy the whole city? Or is it just powered by Hextech? Is it a missile that would just cause a normal size explosion? Because if it's the second, think about this. If it's just a normal missile, then what did she do? She launched an assault that will destroy just that building. With surgical precision, she assassinated only the people at the top, avoiding the rest of Piltover, the people, the citizens, the innocents. She just targeted the corrupt, greedy, apathetic council who are the real cause of Zaun's oppression, along with the mad scientists who, will be responsible for the havoc that Hextech wars will, the Hextech wars that will sweep across all of Runeterra. And by the way, that's only after they destroyed Zaun with it, because that is inevitability, because Silco would not have given Jinx up. So is that it? What was it, targeted assassination? Did she purposely avoid civilians? I mean, we'll see in Season 2. Heavy speculation, total caveat, take it or leave it, but interesting to think about. So, to recap, from all three angles, the three pillars that make up the foundation of all stories, plot, character, theme, plot-wise, Piltover is undoubtedly the oppressor here. With their literal toxic treatment of Zaun, their thuggish police force, their apathy towards, the endless struggles that they've inflicted upon the poorest of the poor in their own society, we have Jinx emerging as the hero, the one character who makes any progress in the cause of the underdog. Not Vander, not Silco, Jinx. Okay, next, character. So Jinx is a character who is haunted by a past that she cannot escape. Attempts are made to lure her into trying to recreate that past, which is a path that's just filled with misery and torment, because things cannot go back to the way they were. She cannot undo what happened. But with her final move, her final act of the story, she finds self-acceptance. She embraces her identity. She makes things go wrong, but she can use this for the good. She can make things go wrong for the people who deserve it. She makes peace with Jinx. Now, all those voices in her head calling her that name, condemning her with that name, they can't hurt her anymore, because those voices are correct. It's what she is, and she's perfect.
Don't cry. You're perfect.
And theme, which we mostly covered, Jinx is the one character who accepts change and acts in it before it's too late, before she faces the consequences. Even though it hurts, and even though she still loves Vi and she still longs for her, she recognizes what's inevitable, what the reality is.
I thought maybe you could love me like you used to. Even though I'm different. But you changed too.
And she's the one character in the whole story who's successful in this regard. The one character who does what the story has been trying to tell us this whole time, that we need to accept change. Okay, now to contrast, just so we can keep our heads on straight, let's look at the counterargument. Jinx is a villain. Despite starting with admirable, sympathetic goals, as a kid, and then later on, despite her trauma making her relatable to us, you just cannot avoid the fact that she works for the big bad villain. You cannot avoid the fact that she's a heartless killer, that she mistreats and hurts characters we care about, and in the final scene, she either kills or tries to kill, quite a few of them. By the way, all heroes, undeniably. Innocent, admirable, upright characters who just want the best for her city, characters who are ultimately committed to peace, and then Jayce and Viktor, undaunted by failure, by sacrifice, by mindless bureaucracy, inventing literal world-changing tech that will improve the lives of millions of people, unless it falls into the hands of people like this. And Jinx just comes in and lays waste to it all. When everyone is in the middle of finally making the right choice, voting for peace, the worst moment possible, Jinx just comes in, destroys everything. What's her villain arc? So not every villain has a complete arc, but Jinx absolutely does. She starts out innocent, right? She's literally just reaching out for anyone who will show her any love, any care at all. She's desperate. It's unclear when she first becomes Silco's daughter. We don't really see this part of her life. It's unclear whether she's actually on board with Silco's goals for Zaun, and his methods towards achieving those goals. Eventually, she does start to actively work towards them with Silco and with his gang. But we don't really know if she cared about those goals outright or just wanted to make her new father happy. There's still this shred of hope that if she's reunited with her sister, she could revert to what she was. She could become good and innocent again, become powder again. This time forever, maybe. But in the last scene, she doesn't just fall short of this, she makes the opposite decision, the most devastating decision. She embraces Jinx, the cold, cruel, bitter part of her that just wants to get back at the world. And remember, we see the same dilemma earlier, and we're told the solution, the moral solution. We can have peace if Vi turns herself in, if Vander turns himself in, right? Now we can have an even greater peace if Jinx turns herself in, but self-sacrifice doesn't even occur to her. She doesn't overhear Silco and then tell him she'll volunteer as tribute and go willingly. She sees it as a betrayal. She only cares about herself. And then, whatever Piltover has done to Zaun, that's not why she attacks them. She attacks them because of what Silco said.
We will show them all.
She does it because screw the world, screw peace. If you turn me into a monster, then you deserve a monster. Jinx is definitely a villain, undeniably a villain. How could you possibly argue otherwise? Okay, did I confuse you? Because I confused myself making this video. Okay, in all seriousness, I wanted to make this video not to answer the question. I don't really care about the answer. I think it's amazing that this question is there to ask at all. When have you ever seen a character with fully formed hero and villain arcs that encompass the same set of events? It's crazy. You see villains who think they're the hero, you see sympathetic villains, you see morally gray villains, you see villains who become heroes, you see heroes on the wrong side, you have villainous protagonists, you have antagonists who oppose the main character, but we have a hard time kind of labeling them as a villain in any way. But none of these characters have actual full hero arcs. You don't see the main plot agency of the story placed in their hands only for them to deliver an action to us that we can define equally, or at least reasonably, as both a heroic or a villainous climax to the whole freaking story. And also, the presentation. I mean, Magneto, Thanos, Smeagol, these characters have motivations which can be understood or sympathized with, but our allegiances are to the main character. Let's be absolutely clear. We do not root for these characters. We're not aching to see them get what they've been longing for. We're not hoping to see them fulfill their goals just like we are for the main characters. No, we understand them. And then we go back to the actual hero. With Jinx, we all hope for the best for her, earnestly and powerfully. That scene where she's introduced like a hero. There's no getting around that. We're seeing her shoot people down, we're seeing her inventions working like she's always wanted, and we're all, cheering. We're like, yeah, awesome, go Jinx. We're reveling in her success. She's amazing. And that scene knows that's what we want to feel, and it gears itself towards us seeing how amazing she is, how she's developed, how she's getting what we've always wanted for her, And that's not how villains are introduced. That is a hero's introduction. What even is that? How do they make a character like this? It's nuts. So what do you think, hero or villain? And even if you made up your mind that she's a villain, do you at least see the heroic elements in her character? I think it's at least hard to deny that there's not some of that there's not some elements of paradox within this character, at the very least, because she is introduced as completely innocent, and we naturally retain some of that even when we see her become what she becomes. Yeah, and I gotta say, the more I look into this character, Jinx is by far my favorite character in the series. I'm really interested to hear what people think about this. Comment sections in my videos have all actually been so amazing. They've been full of really great ideas and opinions. We've had some amazing discussion down there, and I'm so happy to see people are as passionate about the show as I am. Anyway, shout outs to Jinx. She actually just subscribed to the channel. She left a nice comment. I know she likes to have something playing while she's working, but anyway, feel free to follow suit and subscribe as well. I make videos every Sunday and every Wednesday. Big thanks to the patrons. You can support me on there if you want. I'll leave the link in the description. And this amazing Jinx fan art is by Chiara Iacobelli, who draws my comic Minor Champion. It's a superhero parody about a plus-sized man who wants to cure the world of small problems, tiny problems. So if you're a comic guy, a webtoons guy, then you can check that out. End of issue 1, Ice Popcalypse, just went up this morning. Follow Chiara on Instagram too. She's incredible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.